Hello, my name is Craig Blanchett, and this is Take Shape for Life University, where we are going through Dr. A's Habits of Health book. And this year we decided to start at the end of the book, chapter 26, and we're working our way to chapter 1. And this week we're covering chapter 16. It is the Habits of Motion, and it is part 2 in Dr. A's exercise activity thermogenesis. And so we're going to be going through that tonight. I've got a few questions here for us. Last week we had an incredible discussion when we talked about the sleep chapter, and I just went away thinking how excited and thrilled I was to be part of this community and working with all of you guys. And so tonight, a couple things that stood out to me in this particular chapter here that were interesting was just the idea of cardiovascular health versus musculoskeletal health. And so it's basically our heart and lungs versus our muscles and our skeleton, our bones. So we got bones and muscle, and we got heart and lungs. And I don't know if you guys have thought about it that way, but there are two kind of different systems that are affected by exercise. And it's really important to have strong bones and strong muscles. It's also important to have a strong heart and strong lungs, because that's kind of everything that kind of keeps us together. And so a couple things I'm going to be talking about tonight a little bit is as we're, and this will be fun working with Dan, Dan's here. Dan and I have been doing a lot of exercise on Mondays. We actually switched it. Here's actually just a new blurb. We switched our workouts to be 7 a.m. Mondays and Fridays. And I didn't tell you about this, Dan, but I'm going to be out there at 7 a.m. tomorrow as well. So if you want to join me tomorrow, we can hit it 3 days this week hard. But Dan and I have been talking a lot about, and the way you get there is the same place you're here now, the Zoom number. Show up at 7 a.m. and you're either on a treadmill, a stationary bicycle. If you happen to race hand cycles, bring that. Wheelchairs, that's available. But bring something where you can do a cardiovascular workout, and we show up at 7 a.m. Mondays and Fridays, West Coast time, and I take us through a interval workout. And so we get to talk together, and we get to work together, and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty, it's been a lot of fun. But Dan and I have been talking about heart rate, and it's really interesting that on page, let's see here, I think it's on... Oh, it's in the workbook, actually. Page 97. No, page 94. That Dr. A talks about how to calculate your heart rate. And so it might be kind of fun for us to actually talk about this a little bit. One of the things I'm going to take and expound upon what Dr. A tells us a little bit here, because I just learned this from the Canadian Olympic coach that I met and spent some time with recently. We just had the World Championship indoor track and field meet in Portland this last weekend, and so it was fun to get together with a bunch of my former Olympians and have a good conversation. But the idea is that you find out what your maximum heart rate is. And so what you do with that is you take 220 minus your age. And so for me, 220, let's see here. We'll go 220 minus 32. That was a joke. Thanks for laughing. So I come up, I'm 47. So I come up with 173. And then he says times that by 0.65. So times 0.65 equals, let's see here, 173 times 0.65 equals, well, that's 112. That doesn't make sense. Does it? I'm terrible with math, right? Times 0.65 equals, yeah, I get 112. So maybe it's 112 plus 173. That's way too much. Well, anyway, there we go. How about them apples? So let's just do his. So It's on page 94. He says, take your answer to question 1 and multiply it by 0.5. This will give you the minimum desired beats per minute as we start your conditioning. Now take your answer to question 1 and multiply it by 0.65. This is the maximum beats per minute as we start your conditioning. And so basically my high end is 173. Now, one of the things that Peter taught me is that you take your maximum beats and then you minus your resting heart rate. So if you wake up in the morning with the resting heart rate, let's say of 60 or 50, so what I'll do there is I will take 173 minus 50. So I got 123. And then if I want to find out what 80%, like say I want to do a workout at 80%, I would take 123 times 80%, and it's 98. And then we go to, and then we add back in the resting. So we go 98 plus 173. And so, no, we go to 98 plus 50, excuse me. And so 148. So for me, 80% of my max is 148 BPM. And here's the neat thing about this calculation is as I get in better shape, my resting heart rate's going to drop. It'll be lower and lower and lower when you wake up in the morning. And so right now, with the resting heart rate of 50, I have 80% is 148. But if I had a resting heart rate of 40, what's going to drop that percentage down a little bit? So anyway, that's maybe a little bit geeky there, but I just want you guys to understand where your maximum heart rate is and where your minimum or where your resting heart rate is. And then that way you can figure out when you're exercising what an easy day looks like and what a hard day looks like. Because after you've lost your weight, you're no longer restricted by the intensity because of the 5 and 1. So we can let things go. We can do a lot more exercise, and so you can be up in the 80. You can breathe out of your mouth. You can do some sprints. You can do some running. You're no longer restricted by those calories. And so when you, on an easy day, Dan and I try to work at about 60% of our max heart rate on the easy days. And on the hard days, we'll be between 80 and 95, sometimes 100% on our hard days. And that way we continue to increase our anaerobic threshold, and then we also lower our resting heart rate because our heart's going to get more and more efficient the stronger it gets. That's what lowers your resting heart rate. So that was a bunch of kinds of information. You don't need to get it all in detail, but any specific questions about heart rate that's come up? You have to unmute yourself if you want to talk. And if you don't, then you don't. Okay. So think about that. Think about figuring out what your maximum heart rate is and your minimum heart rate. And when you're on the 5 and 1, you want to keep it simple. Keep it light. You may try a couple times getting up to maybe 50 or 60% of your maximum heart rate and see how your body does. But you just want to be careful with that because you don't want to overdo the 5 and 1. So here's a question for you all, and we can show maybe by a sign of raising of hands. Some of you have your video muted, and if you are able, if you're not able to, don't. But if you are able, if you can unmute yourself so we can see your face, that'd be awesome. So question number 2 is, should you stretch muscles that are cold or warm, and why? Warm. Kathy says warm. Yes. And Dr. A talked a little bit about why we should stretch with muscles that are warm. Does that make sense as to why? What's the reason there?
Well, there's more elasticity in them.
What's that?
More blood flow to them.
Mm-hmm.
So you're less likely to strain something.
Yeah. The more pliable. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's on page 197. It says there's a lot more muscle building. There's a lot more to muscle building than meets the eyes. Not only does weight resistance training burn calories both during and after exercise, but the longer term results of weight training is more muscle, helps you continue to burn an extra calories 24/7. This may not be in here, but 1 pound of muscle will burn between 50 and 70 calories in a 24-hour period at rest. So as you burn, if you build a pound of muscle, your body has increased its metabolism by 70 calories per day at rest. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah, and so then actually, I don't know if that's where he did talk about it, about your muscles being warm. But anyway, yes, that's correct. You want to stretch muscles that are warm. And so you may go out and do a little bit of a warm up, a little bit of a walk, maybe some light jumping jacks or something like that, and then do some stretching and then get into your workout. A lot of the Olympic athletes talked about doing stretching after they've worked out, not beforehand, and they had less injuries when they did that, which is kind of interesting. And so Dr. A talks about any comments on that. I want to take a second and let you guys comment or ask questions. Okay. So Dr. A talks about a progression from how many weeks does it take to then start building like up to 5,000 steps a day. I know a lot of people say they have these smart pedometers and they talk about 10,000 steps a day. Well, if you just started on the 5 and 1, you should wait to build up to start the 5,000 steps and then moving up to 20,000 steps. Does anybody know how long he recommends waiting? Anyone? Okay. Well,
Is it 2 weeks?
yeah, he actually talks about doing it over 3 weeks is what he recommends. Oddly enough, I was taking my questions out of the Living a Longer, Healthier Life book. So on page 96, week 1, he talks about week 2 is to pick up the pace. Week 1 is figuring out where you are, getting your heart rates, doing some stretching, warming up, things like that. And then he talks about in week 2 picking up the pace. And so we go a little bit more, 15 minutes at 2 miles per hour. And then week 3 is when we go from 5,000 to 20,000 steps. And so it's a progression where you don't just start with the big 45-minute walk, right at week 2 or week 3. You actually work up to that. And what we don't want to do is take your body out of fat burning by adding too much stress too quickly. Your body is actually not designed to burn. Your body is not really designed to burn fat exclusively, and so what you'll do in that situation is if you add, it's stressful being in fat burn, and so when you add exercise on top of that, when your body's still getting used to fat burn, and then you add the exercise on top of that, it's just too much stress, and it puts your body into a kind of a distressful state, which shuts down the fat burning state. So that's why we say if you haven't been exercising, don't start for 3 weeks. And if you have, back it down and just allow your body to handle the new stress, which is the fat burning state. So that's how that works. And then last question here is there's a medical term called sarcopenia. Does anybody know what sarcopenia is? It's kind of a fun, fancy word. Anybody want to take a guess?
It's breakdown of your muscles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, it does have to do with breaking down the muscles over time with age. Yep. Dr. A says, this is on the workbook. Let's see, where's a little bit of feedback there? I'm going to mute everybody here. I don't know where that's coming from. That's good. It's not there anymore. So sarcopenia is a degeneration of muscle mass and strength, sometimes referred to as osteoporosis of the muscles. It is a serious condition that affects people who don't use their muscles regularly for lifting and moving. See page 197 of the Habits of Health book for more information on this. And so 197. Yeah. About musculoskeletal health. As we discussed previously, sarcopenia, it creates flabby, weak muscles and leads to more inactivity, ultimately stressing out all the organ systems. And so this is here's a thing you may have not thought about, is when somebody has a hard time walking because they're overweight, and so they get one of those electric wheelchairs or electric carts. What that actually does is it makes them work even less, and so their bodies end up losing more muscle. And so usually those electric carts end up being the beginning of the end. Like they don't ever regain the movement. So for temporary injuries and things like that, they're totally understandable. But if what you're doing with what you're doing with walking around with the extra weight on your body is probably significantly helping your health, because all that weight bearing stuff on your legs is actually good to keep your muscle strength up. And so if you think about usually things that are easier are rarely better for us. Harder is often better. So all right. Well, those are the main questions I had. Debbie is here as well, and she is going to give us some highlights. She's actually in this process right now in her journey, her optimal health journey. And so she's working on adding exercise. And so she's taken some pointers and tips from this that she's going to share with us. And so welcome, Debbie. And by the way, she had a little bit of exercise evidently on the way where she got a flat tire, huh?
Yes. We went out. I've been exercising all day today. We went out to Gaston to it's called Tree to Tree Adventure Park. Oh, wow. And it's a zip line and obstacle course. And I guess on something on the way there, I must have gotten something because I got a flat tire and I had just bought this car, so it took me longer. And of course, my phone had died.
No problem.
So
you're just showing off because you just want to add changing a flat tire on top of all the rest of the work you did.
I know this is hard enough. My hips are bothering me, but it was fun. I have an 11-year-old, and I try to keep. That's part of the reasons I'm doing this program is to keep up with him.
Good job.
I apologize for being late because I was supposed to help with this.
No
and
question.
Actually, I just ran in, and so I don't even have my book with me.
Okay. Just talk off the top of your head, because I know we talked about this earlier today, and you had some big points that you were focusing on about cardiovascular health, and then some things you had done before. So just talk with us a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, one of the things I really enjoyed this chapter because, like Craig had said, this is where I'm at right now. Is I had tried to lose weight before, and I did lose the weight, but I never really. I've always been a walker. That's where I started. And so I got the cardiovascular part of it that I didn't really focus too much on actually getting my body into shape. And one of the things I really enjoyed reading about in this book was some of the tips on how to get your musculoskeletal part. I don't have the book in front of me, but part of the program of this NEAT system. Starting getting that done. I've been working out for about 9 months now, actually in a gym instead of just walking. And part of the reasons I enjoy it so much is doing the muscular side of it is because I'm more worried about injury. And I really feel like focusing on increasing my strength is going to help with myself in the future, as far as not falling, losing my balance and falling. So the chapter, off the top of my head, I know that there was a couple of pages, I think it was 204, one of the sides little things had some great little comments. I don't have it in front of me, but I really enjoyed reading this chapter and looked forward to, that was one of the highlights, is the muscular part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so what kinds of things are you doing practically to build strength in your muscles? I mean, do you have some specific exercises you focus on, or what's that look like for you in reality?
And I've been doing a core class that does about 15 minutes of just working on your stomach and working on your core and doing some planks and a lot of calisthenics. Just stuff that's just, I do a lot of weight bearing type strength training and not necessarily weights. I like doing planks and using the straps, and so it's really just trying to focus on getting that strength up to where when I guess I was talking to you this morning about how I enjoyed on some of the chapter was talking about how you actually get your body to where you're going up 8 seconds, holding the contraction for 3 to 4 seconds, and then bringing it back down. And that alone increases your strength and increases your body muscle. It breaks it down to where it can start to build up again, and you start building some strength. It's as easy as that. It's just lifting our legs while we're sitting there watching television. And it makes a huge difference in maybe our hips. That's one of my concerns. And so, yeah.
Cool.
Like
Thanks, Deb. You know, one thing that I've been doing when I've been sitting at my desk, and all of you guys are sitting right now, and so it's just something you can do. So as you're sitting in your chair, what I do is I lean back in my chair and I put my hands out, but you don't touch the back of your chair. So scoot to the front of your chair and just kind of lean back and then put your hands out. And then kind of you'll feel your core, your stomach muscles just kind of clench up and just kind of hold it there. And I'll just be sitting here at my desk and I'll do that 2 or 3 times during the day. And it just keep myself from falling or touching the back of the seat, but I'm kind of leaning back and just contracting and holding it there for 20 or 30 seconds a few times a day. Boy, the next day your back and everything will just be kind of sore. And there'll be times when I'm actually driving in the car, and I'll do that where I'll pull myself away from the steering wheel, or towards the steering wheel, away from causes me to actually try and causes me to contract my core just to sit there without leaning against the back of the seat and while I'm driving. So there's little things I can do like that. Sometimes when I'm laying in bed, if I'm watching TV or something, I'll just kind of do a little V up where I kind of pull up my legs and pull up my shoulders, and I'll just kind of contract and just kind of hold it there. Just these little things that you could just lay there and just be totally relaxed, but you could do just a few of these throughout the day, and you'll be surprised at how much just a little, it's not that hard, but it's mixed in with your day. So it doesn't take all this extra time to go to the gym and do these things. I know some people when they're cooking, if they're waiting for something to boil and they have an island, they'll stir it and then they'll walk around the island 10 times, and then they'll stir it and then they'll walk around the island 10 times. Or when they're standing there doing something, they'll do like 10 squats, and then they'll be doing whatever thing, and then they'll stop and they'll take 10 squats. And little things like that, I think, make a big difference in the long run, where you can just add exercise in throughout your day, and it makes a difference. And one of the neat things that you'll notice as you get stronger, that the things that you the normal things that life requires becomes, you can do it faster, or you can do it with more balance, or you can do it longer, whatever that is. And it's just because you're building some strength. This is something, I don't know, the Dr. A talks about this in detail, but the way that our muscles grow, our bodies have been so amazing. Think about this. It's the only thing on planet Earth that I know works like this. When you work your body hard, it's breaking it down. And then you rest it, and it grows back stronger. Okay? And I know that's like, duh. Okay? That's what happens. So you work out and you make your muscles sore, and your muscles say, I didn't have enough strength to be able to lift that kind of weight. So it breaks it down. And then your body does its magic stuff, and it grows it back stronger so it can handle that amount of work. It's called the training effect. That's why athletes train for years for a specific race. They train their bodies at a higher level, so when they're actually racing, they can compete and do more. Now imagine if other things on planet Earth worked like this. Imagine if you drove your car really hard one day, just beat the crap out of it, and then you rested it for a week, and it became a four-wheel drive. Right? It doesn't happen. Right? Anything on planet Earth that we break down doesn't magically grow back stronger. It breaks. But our bodies are so awesome. You know, our minds, we stress our minds, and then it grows stronger. It's why doing Sudoku and doing some of those brain puzzles that stresses your mind actually makes your mind stronger. And so this is the amazing bodies that we get to live in. And when you break it down, now some of the problems is if you break it down too much and you don't allow it to recover, then you can injure it. And so there's a recovery piece. Dan and I have been working on this a lot because we want to push the envelope of digging the hole and really breaking our bodies down, but then we need to rest hard as well so our bodies can build back so we can go. And just as we're closing up here, we're right at the top of the hour, but let me tell you, this will make a lot of sense now, and it's totally relevant, is who's here, you've probably heard of anabolic steroids, where athletes will do steroids to get stronger. Right? Well, you can actually do steroids, inject steroids, and if you don't exercise, they don't do much. They don't make you stronger just by using the steroids. Here's how steroids work. Steroids allow your body to recover faster. So you can go do an incredible workout that would normally take you a week and a half to recover, and you grow stronger. And with the steroids, you can grow back in like a quarter of the time. So the reason why steroids work is it's so you can push your body harder, and it will build it back quicker, so that then you can work it hard again, so then it'll build it back quicker. And so the reason why steroids work is they allow you to dig a deeper hole, and it fills it back in quicker. So anyway, that's just it's probably really simplified version, but that's why steroids do work. Debbie, you had a question here. Let me unmute you.
Well, I just thought I'd just real quick, because I didn't get it, I came in late. It's just one of the things I wanted to emphasize is that along with our cardiovascular and our walking, that there's simple, easy stuff that we can do that starts to just build our muscle. And it can be as easy as just raising our hands and twisting our arms to get this right here. But I don't want I'd like people to know that you don't have to go to a gym and start lifting weights to start talking about actually starting to try and think about toning your body and getting it to where there's a little more strength training. It's not necessarily going to a gym and starting to sweat it out. There's just little things you can do that around the house that will increase your strength, and you'll start to feel the difference. Mm-hmm. To me, that's one of the reasons why I didn't get into it so much, is because I always had that mentality of having to go to a gym and having to go do boot camp and lift weights and do all this stuff. But by just going and doing, you know, a bunch of sit-ups, I've found a huge difference in my lower back. I've gotten some strength in my lower back, and I wasn't, you know, it wasn't, I didn't feel a muscle head.
Yeah, no, exactly.
In order to do that.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. So just for those of you that are thinking about as well, if I lift lots of weights, I'm going to get really big, bulky muscles. Well, if you're a woman, you won't. And if you're a man, you probably won't either. You have to work really hard for that. So don't worry about getting big and bulky muscles if you're a woman. Don't let that be your excuse to not do the hard work. Do the hard work, and it's good for you. And the process takes time as well. It takes about a month to put on a pound of muscle. And you have to be working out probably 5 days a week. So you have to work out a lot. And so a lot of people will say, oh, I'm gaining some weight, but it's probably muscle. And they've gained 3 to 4 pounds in a month. Well, it's not muscle. It's impossible for that to be muscle, right? It's probably liquid and who knows what else. So I hope that gives you a little idea about strength training, gives you some ideas about cardiovascular work, and really you can start wherever you are just by doing some simple contractions, some simple squats, some simple stuff. And if you do it, you'll get stronger. And when you're stronger, your body will work better, and it'll make life, it's not that it makes life easier, but allows you to do more and embrace more of life. So hope this has been helpful for you. Next week, we're going to be going over chapter 15, which is on the non-exercise activities. So these are lifestyle activities, and you can slip these in all the time just through lifestyle choices. So hope you'll join us again next week.